Hi, I'm Shelly Ulrich, and I'm going to share a personal crossing of how I'm going first and how I was called into ministry 3.5 years ago. When I stepped into this role to shepherd the hearts of women here, it was no small stream that I stepped into. I actually said yes to God's calling while sitting and resting and healing from multiple foot surgeries. And so when I stepped in, that one foot, it was a fragile foot and it was physical and spiritual for me. So here I went, 1 foot in. My first step crossing into the water included inviting as many ladies as possible to just sit and have a cup of coffee and share. I wanted to hear their stories. And I loved watching women just light up, talking about how much they loved Jesus and how much he meant to them. And then I saw change. Their whole demeanor, even their tone would change when they would share these unhealthy experiences from women in women ministry across the body of Christ. And it broke my heart. And I just kept thinking to the Lord, how can this be? Jesus modeled such kindness and honor and value towards women. We see it all in the Bible. They were important to him. They were his followers, his disciples, and were even created as helpers in his kingdom. So I increasingly started to feel this huge responsibility to keep loving and serving individual women and yet also champion our culture. And I also take very seriously the accountability that I have, where I will stand before the Lord, my King, as a leader responsible for what I've said yes to. And I still know it's dependence in prayer and dependence on the Lord that keeps me going. But my seeing was distorting my believing. And this was not God's way. And a once defeated, 20 years ago defeated pattern of anxiety started to rise up at night. And the grip of fear kept me from sleeping for months. I even had several panic attacks, which was a very frightening and new experience for me. And God bless my husband, Kevin. He would hold me and pray over me and encourage me. He led me to go get some counseling. I even got on some anxiety medication for a little bit because I was not okay. And none of this felt like God, and doubt was swirling. It wasn't true, but the river felt like it was overflowing. And I was overwhelmed. And my foot in that water was slipping, and my foot on the bank was struggling to stay in that double stance. I finally, humbly, after 5 months, went to Pastor Brandon and I confessed that I tried, but maybe someone more qualified should really lead the women here, because I felt like I was failing. And of course, there's a faithfulness in me, and so I promised Pastor Brandon that I wouldn't quit until he found that next woman that would step into this role. For a few months, only the staff and the elders and the elder wives knew that a search for someone else had began. Well, in these summer months, I'm still doing this job and I'm still waiting on the Lord, and yet there's a little bit lighter step. I did seek counseling. I did let the Lord expose my fear of failure and even my fear of success and break my desire to perform for God, because that was wrong. And I started to believe and see my God again rightly. You see, many people and even the world say that seeing is believing, but God says, believe me, and then you'll see. And in this short time, the woman who possibly could have come to take my position here, instead, she became my mentor and my coach. And God reconfirmed my call to stay in this role. He confirmed that to Santha, my coach, my husband, myself, and I humbly and gratefully recommitted to Pastor Brandon and our eldership. So at the end of summer 2021, I put both feet in that river and recommitted my yes. And I stood before our women kindly and yet in authority. I shared with all of them as beloved daughters here at Real Life that we have to stop talking negatively about women and women's ministry. And we have to start being the healthy change that we want to see. Because it's God's love that defines us and unites us and empowers us as his disciple makers. And language changed and culture changed. And we're now a healthy group of women pursuing King Jesus and loving each other in a sisterhood that I believe makes him proud. We do love with Hesed because he first loved us. And so with the cross in mind, I ask you, will you step in with both feet? Will you cross over with us, with me? And when the world says seeing is believing, nope, we'll trust God. And he says, believe me, and we'll see him do great things. For we are his, and we'll go first.